How are you? Welcome.
Fine.
No, it's late afternoon, and pleased to be here again for the second or second year running, and very pleased to have Carlos Slim with us as well, wrapping up by the end of the day. I'm told we have to stick to time because President Clinton is waiting.
Begin, you can begin.
I know he's waiting, so I have to wrap us at some stage. But I think, why don't you start off, Carlos, and talk to us a little bit about how you see the world at the moment, and we'll get into a little bit of the questions and
Thank
some
you.
of the discussion points afterwards.
The idea, I talked with Lynn, thank you for the invitation. Many of you know, around 10,000 years ago, the glaciation, the last glaciation finished around that, and there were a lot of water, and the water make in the valleys a lot of flora and fauna, a lot of life, and like the small tribes and groups of human beings were walking around the world already. They were around the world, they were in America already, and in all places. They find these beautiful paradises with food and water, and they get sedentarian. That was a big, big transformation. That was a big, big transformation that changed completely the society. That make that maybe from 8 million people, there are figures about this, they go to near 1 billion. That means that they grow 100 times. They create many things. They were outstanding people that make outstanding things. I make a table with some names of them, but it's very important how they go from religion to astronomy, to literature, to poetry, to writing, to all the science, mathematics, algebra, medicine. They develop everything. And they were some, there's President Clinton there, they make some fantastic developments that still today we are using them. We are based in many of the things they have discovered or they have created. The list of these people, I don't know if they can put the table, but we're very impressed.
There were some slides, yeah.
The slides. We can talk about people of religion like Abraham, Moses, Jesus Christ, Mahoma, Buddha, and to Aristoteles, Platon, Socrates, Tales de Mileto, the golden age of Greece. They are some of the names there that are very impressive. All these people is from the agricultural society. We are talking about music, we are talking about science, we are talking about religion, philosophy, psychology, everything. They make a great advance. There is other slide, you can go please with the next slides. There were also militaries. They were also people with a very strong bellicosity instinct coming from the hunting when they were hunters and recollectors. They have this high instinct. If you can make the next slide. And also, like I was telling, they create a lot of advances in maybe you can put the other slide. A lot of advances around the world. Well, this was the positive side of the agricultural society. This creativity, innovation, these great people, these great advances were outstanding. Today, many of the things they do cannot be separated in the architecture, in art, in music. Mozart, Beethoven, Brahms, all of them were part of this society, agricultural society. But they were something that was very tough, that it was sustained in the social immobility, in the explotar, they exploit people, slavery, not human rights, not take of environment, and that was ignorance. They need to have this kind of different classes. That is still today one of the big problems that we are talking when we talk about capital inclusive. We are talking of a society that was very exclusive. The agricultural society was very exclusive and were linked with the exploitation of the people, mainly by slavery and other kind of issues like this. And this society, 200 years ago, it was for near, the first 7,000 years were not so advanced, the last 3,000 were very fast, but the last 200 years, it moved to another transformation.
Can I just interrupt you briefly? Because I know everybody here, they're very excited that you're here. Yeah. And I just want to bring it into a little bit about what we've talked about today.
Yes, wait 5 minutes.
Yes.
If not, we will not finish one part nor the other.
Okay.
Then we arrived to the industrial society. These things changed. It changed completely, and a neo-civilization came. That was the Industrial Revolution. And then we grow extraordinary, the economy grew many times, and that is China today. China is moving from an agricultural society to a modern society. That's why they grow 8 or 10% a year, like it was done by Europe and US in the 19th century and by Mexico at the beginning of the 20th century. Well, this agricultural society brings many changes, but they were a complete sala, trying to make the changes, and thus they moved from the monolithic power of the agricultural society where the religion, the political, the economic, and the military force were in one person or in a group of persons, to begin to move and to explore. That's the way we explore communism, Marxism, dictators. We explore many things. It was a salad of explorations, of experiments with with persons. Mm-hmm. And then after the electricity and the engine, the internal combustion engine, we advance a lot. More people move, more people create, and that's why we are now in this electronic society when we move from the tube to the transistor, to the PC, to the chip, to the fiber, to the internet, and all what we are having now. That's a great transformation that takes us in a new society, but that nobody is moving, nobody is conducting, and is creating a lot of problems to the society that we are living today. I will like if they can move.
Let me just ask you in the meantime, because I know you all know who Carlos Slim is, and I've had the honor of getting to know you a bit here over the last couple of hours. But I tried to put together some of all the sectors that you're present in, and you are, let's say for good sake's measure, that you're the world's richest man. If not number 2, maybe some days number 3, but you're up there, right? And you control more than 200 companies: telecoms, cigarette industry, industrial manufacturing, mining, bicycles, hotels, printing, banking, railways, food, media, airlines, real estate, technology, retail, sports, financial services, entertainment. And I probably left out a whole bunch as well. And I was speaking to a couple of people last night, and they were very curious to know that somebody like you, who runs the backbone of Mexico, what have you done in your career?
That's what I wrote. What?
Yeah, what have you done in the last many years that has brought kind of an inclusive capitalism together? Because surely you couldn't build what you've built all alone, without making sure that that the people feel supported.
Everything that should do something is because they have vocation,
yeah,
and they have a good team of people working around, and that's the way you can go to 26 countries. This is the way that you can do things. But I think it's very important that because we moved the subject that was invited to talk about, to change to my person. I think my person is not important.
Oh, it's very
important. The important thing is what is happening.
Okay, well, I'm happy to I know that it was agreed that you spoke about some other things, but I thought because I've prepared a lot of things.
Oh, you can read about
but everything has been crossed off, so I was going to
internet.
suggest that I leave mine behind, you leave a little bit of yours behind, and then we'll meet in the middle.
I think we don't have the time.
Okay. Okay, I'm very happy to go
Okay,
ahead.
we were talking about the problems of the new society. The new society, as the industrial society, is creating problems of unemployment, especially for young people, problems of obsolescence of the education, obsolescence of the health. The public sector investments are not working. The governments are expanded, and they have big fiscal deficits. They have some of them, like France, has 55% economic fiscal incidence and have a big debt, and is the problem of all the countries. That's what we need to do, is to solve all these kind of problems, which is the way that is, in my opinion, very clear, is that as in the agricultural society, and that's why I talk about the agricultural society, the power were monolithic. In this modern society, the civil society and the private investment should be very important and make the work, the economic work, and many of the things that can be done by the politicians and by the governments. If the governments are not available to make public investment, that they have problems of financing, they have problems of quality, or they have problems of any kind of problem you want, say, it should be done by private sector. So my point is that private sector should be very important in the investments that the economies need, all the infrastructure, all the things that can be done by private sector. I am not talking about businessmen only, but also by investment funds, by the pension funds, but whatever, but should be done and financed with more efficiency with them that by the public sector. And also, the civil society need to have a higher share in the decisions, in the environment, in the human rights, in many points. By last, I will finish telling that the paradigms of the agricultural society were 180 grades different of the modern society, the technology of society, electronic society, digital society, knowledge and information, whatever you want to name it. This modern society of services against the primary society are 180 grades opposed. That means that in the other way, where slavery now is freedom, democracy, plurality, diversity. In the last was social immobility, now is social mobility. Ignorance, now is education and training. Physical labor now is not physical labor, now is intellectual labor. Now you need to have training to work and to do things happen. And that's wars, an unhealthy society, environmental hostility, and the main issue, poverty. In the old world, in the agrarian area, it was important, the poverty, because you need to have slaves. You need to have slaves and do whatever you want with them, and to exploit people and to put to work in the field or in the boats, in the big boats, remando, I don't know, like galeotes. But now you don't need physical strong, you need intellectual strong. You need to have people with training and with learning. And also, poverty is today the bad thing that a society can have, not only by ethical reasons. Ethical reasons and social reasons is one big reason, but the other reason is economically. Economically, you cannot have poor people living in ignorance and marginalized, because these poor people has not training and learning for the work we need in this new society, and they are not part of the market, they are not part of the economy. They cannot be a country developed without taking these people out of that. I think the most sense that I see is that we make a war, we love wars, we should do a war against poverty. And instead of making arts, making housing, instead of making military uniforms, making dressing for people, and creating more economic activity to finish with poverty. Well, that's, now you tell me what you want to know.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. It's very interesting, and I get your points as well. I very much get your points. Who should lead that war on poverty that you talk about, and especially from a capitalist perspective? I mean, everybody in this room is a capitalist, right? So you're talking about the private sector that should take the lead?
I was talking about the paradigms of the agricultural society. That's why China is like it is, because it's still an agricultural society. When we want freedom, and they don't have already ready for that. That's why they have this kind of management. But the only country that I find that understand what is happening is China. And they are moving from an agricultural society that the population was in poverty and autoconsumption to an educated society, to get in urban movement and educated and skills, and moving like all the other countries make before from agricultural and rural and auto-consumption society to a modern society with technology, high education, and a very modern industrial development.
But it's not led by the private sector, is it?
Excuse me?
It's not led by the private
yes,
sector.
Yes, it's a combination. It's a combination. But still has a monolithical, politically monolithical program. Who should do that? In my opinion, it should be done by the governments together with the society in each country. The governments need to understand what is happening, to understand that they cannot use the formulas of the past to solve the problems of the future and the present. They cannot only use monetary policy, fiscal policy, because they are not working. We have a stagnation for a long time. And it doesn't matter that Keynes is the Bible. The Bible is 7 years of fat cows and 7 years of slim cows, how you call it? Flacas. You know the Bible, no? 7 years of fat cows, no? Don't you say fat cows? De vacas gordas y 7 años de vacas flacas, ¿cómo se dice? Bueno. Entonces, what you need is to find different solutions, like it were different solutions when you move from the agricultural society to industrial society. Who should do that? Governments with the society. Who will be ahead of everything? The ones who make it faster and better.
On the issue of productivity, I know that you've said in the past that you think that a 3-day work week is something that we should think about. Tell us a little bit more about that. It's part of the solutions.
If you look historically, people has worked less. The slaves worked 24 hours until they died. They killed them working. In a few years ago, in the in the 19th century, they worked 60 or 72 hours. Then we worked 48 hours. When I was young, we worked 48 hours, including Saturday. Then 40 hours was crazy. But I say that you need to work 3 days, 11 hours, have 4 days available, and work until you are 75, because now it's not a society of physical effort, but of experience and knowledge. And you have more experience and knowledge when you have 70 than when you have 50 or 60. So when you get retired at 75, you take out the bankrupt of the government that need to pay you retirement for 40 years from 60 to 90. They solve the problem of bankruptcy. If you take the actuarial cost of pay you from 60 to 90 or from 75 to 90, it's a double effect. And also you have 4 days, you open a space for the others, because more people can work less time, and the people will work as we advance more and more and more and more, we will work less. Thus, let us organize how to work. Not to work 5 days, like in France, they work 5 days, 7 hours or 6 hours. No, you need to work 3 days, maybe 11 hours, to open a space to other people to work other 3 days.
So in tandem with technology becoming a lot more at the forefront of things, in the developed world, then we take a step back, we work less, that gives an opportunity to some of the emerging markets?
But no, I am not talking about one market or the others. It should be done everywhere, depending on the circumstances, not like a law, but depending on the circumstances, to organize the people to open a space for others. And if you work 4 days, they go 3 days and you have 4 days, you will develop entertainment, culture, tourism, transportation, trips, You can find 2 jobs also if you are working like you so hard. You can take 2 jobs, or you can train yourself to have a better job. You can do whatever you like, and you will have a better family life and a better quality of life when you work 3 days and you have 4 days. But the other 4 days help to create new jobs. You need to generate new jobs because of new activities coming from these 4 days, let's say.
Somebody like you, who's a true business leader, what do you think that you can do to kind of change the way that we think about capitalism? Do we need to change the way that we think about
capitalism? I have done
capitalism?
that for the last 15 or more years, like maybe 20. Well, the foundations are good, but not for charity or social program. It's for create human capital with education, health, culture. That's very important. That's very important because we need to move in education to use technology, because today it's obsolete, the education, and boring, and you need to make interesting and more particular. The health, to make people not to be cured, but to prevent to be sick. And we have already the genomics, and we have many things available for that. But at the end of the day, the only way to finish with poverty is with jobs, with employment. You cannot finish poverty by charity. You need to finish poverty with work. And it's the way also to be dignified. The person will be dignified, and you need to create the jobs for the people, especially the young people, to have also hope in the society, and to avoid all this social disruption and all these big problems of thinking that the way to solve the problem is giving them maybe $500 a month to be in some place under control. You need to create the jobs. That's why if you work 3 days, you will open jobs. But also the 4 days available will create new jobs, new activities, and you need to develop new activities.
How do you incentivize people who are middle management or top management to become more inclusive and to change the company structure, such as more inclusive, and to change the company structure, such as Indra was talking about earlier?
I think that the business that are successful or are doing well is because they have training his people. The people has the shirt, has the uniform, like the spirit of the company, the philosophy of the organization, and they are satisfied doing what they love to give of them, no? And when you have these people trained, and the idea that they know that they can succeed with his personal life that is very compatible with the professional life, that's very important. Mm-hmm. You don't sacrifice your personal life because you want to be successful. No, this is not only compatible but necessary both to have them together. The people work hard but know how to use his times, train very well, and they move fast. They move fast in the organization. Personally, we don't bring people from outside. We don't look for headhunters, or we don't find to bring these people of this company, of the other company. We create them, develop them inside the group. And I think that is also very important. And I was telling that the only way to solve this problem is with jobs. What are we doing? We are making, where are the most jobs that you can create? You create jobs more by small and middle business, by housing and construction, infrastructure construction, buildings. We create, like 10 years ago, companies for the development of infrastructure, of housing, but also the financing of small and middle business. You need to do, we think, in the small and middle business, first to get down the business mortality. We make fantastic for the child mortality and the mother's mortality. We need to do that with business mortality. Also, we need to try to deregulate completely, and financing, and also to take the small and middle business to the information technology. How you take them? Well, if you manage the servers, you take it in the cloud to have all his work in the cloud, and you gave them the specialists and the servers. You put them easily, like if they're paying a telephone, you pay them in the information technology immediately. Very, very low cost.
Sure. There's been a lot of talk here. One of the red lines has been about stopping the short-termism, that we need to think more longer term about building businesses that are going to be around even when the CEOs aren't. So if a CEO is only on for 3 years or 4 years, that the whole thing doesn't crumble and you have to start over again. And especially also when it comes to inclusive capitalism, when it comes to rebuilding or reinventing capitalism.
I think it's worse than short-term thinking. I think there is no thinking. I think the politicians doesn't know where we are and where we are going. They are thinking just in the election, or they are very short view. They don't understand what is the world doing, where we are doing, what means the technology revolution, because it's a big transformation. But we still think like in the past. We don't think what is coming, what we should do, what should be changed, what should be happen. And that's a big problem. And when you look that, you need to, when you want to think in long term and medium term, you need to have a vision. Where is the long term? What is what you are going to do, or what is going to happen?
Because it almost seems to me through the day that we've had different conversations, and you can almost kind of divide it into two prongs. So you have one called government and what's happening on the larger picture, on the larger scale of things in Europe, or government structure, or how the world is progressing in growth. And then you have the other side, which is called how you treat your employees, much more granular. How do you mirror the two together, though?
Well, I think the government is a vocation. To be politicians is a great vocation, and they have a lot of job to do, to make the laws, to make the regulations, to make the things happen. And it is very important what the government need to do. But when they have a distraction that they don't have budget because they are going to do that investment and the other, and they have this corporation and this company, they are doing what they should do. And the private sector should get involved in what everyone knows what to do and how to do it. I think that is very complementary, the work of both. And the both, and I am talking about government and private sector, but also government and the civil society and politicians.
Sure. How do you respond to people that might say, look, Carlos, you have way too much.
You what?
You have way too much.
Wait?
No, you have way too much. You No, I'm not the, you're perfect just the way you are.
¿Demasiado qué?
Yeah. Sorry, I know my English isn't my first language.
Well,
either,
I think.
And they say you have way too much, and others have way too little, and somehow that gap has to be narrowed. I mean, is that what inclusive capitalism is? There is a difference, right?
No, I think that doesn't understand. You need two things. First, the people that create wealth and need to be a creator of more wealth. Nobody will take nothing when we pass away. Mm-hmm. Nobody will take nothing. Entonces, it's important that the people that manage wealth, that at the end of the day, all of us manage wealth temporary, make it with sobriety, efficiency, transparency, and create more wealth. That's what we do. We are temporary managers of wealth. We don't take it with us. Mm-hmm. But we manage wealth personally, but also the politicians manage wealth more than anyone. And they are not training to manage this wealth. And we don't know what they think. They make a lot of mistakes managing wealth, no? Some governments and that. And what we do is to manage wealth. I think the problem of the inequality is more than wealth. It's of income. The problem that should be analyzed from the income side. If I give thousands of stocks and I put all the stocks of America Mobile to the people, they will don't eat with stocks. They need income. They will sell them. What you need is to have a better distribution of income. And you have many places, salaries very low, unemployment, retire programs that doesn't receive anything to live, and not enough familiar or house income to live. I think the big problem is this. By the other side, I think all the countries need to create wealth, need to have wealth, and when people say, no, that is a poor country, didn't need to have wealth, that's perversity. I think the small countries, the big countries, the poor countries, the rich countries need to have and create wealth for the welfare of the people of the place.
There's been a bit of conversation about whether you should give more power, essentially, to employees.
Power what for?
Whether like a shareholder structure or ownership, so they feel like the company is theirs, and then it's another culture of working then. I mean, do you pay people more? Do you somehow give them an ownership culture? I mean, how do you breed this?
Look,
this
when
caring?
Telmex was privatized 25 years ago, was interesting because the government gave to the workers 4.4% to the union, to the union workers. And the union workers in the telecom business are very well paid worldwide. They have very good payment. And when they were given to them, because they pay for that, etc., they take in 2 or 3 months, they sold 85% of them. They want the revenue, they don't want the stocks, first of all. Second, I think that the unions and the work of the business community with the unions is very important. Is very important because both the union and the company are in the same game. They are players together. They are not playing one against the other. They are playing both for the interest of the development of the society, because will be, as the society grows, is more jobs and better jobs.
You're quoted as saying, Carlos, work well done is not only a responsibility to yourselves and society, it's also an emotional need. You're quoted as saying, live the present intensely and fully, do not let the past be a burden, let the future be an incentive. And you're quoted as saying, when you give, do not expect to receive, fragrance clings to the hand that gives the rose.
That's a Chinese saying.
Well, what rose would you like, which fragrance would you like to give? Like, what is it that you would like to pass on?
No, that means that you don't give because you want to receive something.
Yes.
So you are making me to say that what I want to receive, I don't matter.
I realize that. But in terms of what you pass on, what would you like out of? I mean, you have tens of thousands of people working for you. You know, in terms of handing things on.
No, I want to have more thousands of people working, that there are employment for everyone, or for most of the people, and that they get more learning and training. Actually, I was telling to say that most of the corporations, we have strong programs of education. Education doesn't finish in the school, and that's why they need to learn in the school more than to know academically many things. But I will say that I will be very happy if I look that things are in the right direction for the solution of the problems of poverty and unemployment and underdevelopment of our countries.
Carlos, thank you very much. Pleasure talking to you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.